All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Simulation Profit. Actually, this is going to be the first video ever on this channel, I think. We are starting a simulation. It is the Cesim simulation. We are Automotive, blah, blah, blah. Let me see. So basically, I'm going to read the case description, give you guys the readings, give you guys the lowdown on this game, what our goals are as a company, and kind of take you through the decisions for round one. Spoiler alert, we're already in like round four by the time I'm making this. I actually didn't know I was starting the channel before I even did these round one decisions. Just decided, why not document this journey? I'm passionate about it. I really want to win this game. And I feel like I'm really good at these business simulation type games, like games similar to this, how to run a business, stock market games, etc. So I just need to figure out how to get my screen to work, and we'll be on our way. But yeah, so I'm going to be taking you guys through my round one decisions in the CSIM Global Challenge, where we're doing cars for our business. I'm going to be reading you guys the case description, kind of giving you guys the ins and outs of the games. I'm not sure how many different versions of this game are. Like, for example, your game could be, you could be selling cars for Bull Automotive as well, but you could literally have completely different things in there, or your case description might be completely different. So it's important to kind of watch this video, kind of see what my case description is, and kind of compare it to yours. So you don't just copy my script decisions where it might not necessarily work out in your favor in your version of your game. So this is the case description. As I said, we are Bull Automotive Inc. So we are basically reorganizing the operations at Bull Automotive. Our goal is to basically make money. Basically, what it's saying here is the automotive industry right now. It is basically what's going on with it is there's concerns over emissions rising in the minds of consumers. Alternative to traditional combustion engine vehicle types are gaining traction. 3 new powertrains are available to the general public: hybrid, electric, and hydrogen. Hybrids, they already have a good market standing as in real life they do. Whereas EVs and hydrogens, they're still establishing their position. In this game, our company has not, like, everyone starts managing the same company. Your goal is like kind of change the strategy for this business, if that makes sense. So everyone starts from basically having 12.5% market share, and everyone starts with the same metrics. But you do kind of get like what was sold last round, but no one was selling hybrids. So we'll talk about that in the decisions. But the governments are trying to offer financial incentives for customers who adopt the new alternatives. That's something that's important. However, the issue is the incentives per unit are not sustainable with higher volumes in the future, basically meaning that the costs are going to be significantly higher. In recent years, the general public has been increasingly interested in ESG matters, environmental, social governance, and the industry is slowly waking up to this reality, which means changes are coming. We'll keep that in mind for round one. Not really. I'm using that. I'm saying that facetiously, as you guys who have already seen my other videos. Well, you guys haven't, because this is the first video. It's weird because this is like the 10th video I filmed on this stupid game. All right. So we have a lot of factories in the U.S. We have, like, the game starts you off with 10 in the U.S., 4 in China. Production costs are lower in China. However, the administration costs are also higher in China. However, that does weaken as the game goes on. All right, this is important to look at: the sales, marketing, and market areas. So right now, Europe has the largest market for quite a bit. It's also the slowest growing. U.S. is in second, and then in about 5 years, it says U.S. is going to surpass Europe. The biggest wild card is China. It has the highest growth rate, but it also has the lowest demand. So as a guide, Europe's at about 3%, U.S. is about 5%, and China is about 10%. That's kind of what the game gave us, and that kind of changes round per round. Like right now in round four is like the farthest I've gotten so far. We're making the decisions for that right after this video is done. But it basically said Europe was already down to negative demand, but it actually really skyrocketed from round 3 to round 4. Like the demand actually went off. So the markets have different preferences. So you don't want to, one thing that you don't want to do when you're making these decisions, you don't want the same exact strategy for every single market. And that's a mistake that we made in the practice rounds, and a lot of other teams did as well. So it basically says, and then this is actually a good refresher for me personally, every single round, because this is a good guide. The markets differ in their technology. Can't read because I have a headache. Given the relatively cheaper price of gasoline in the U.S., traditional combustion hybrids will hold their ground better there in China or Europe. However, there are a tons of natural gas resources, leaving a high probability of hydrogen vehicles gaining ground in the future. A little bit of foreshadowing on what we might be doing. Meanwhile, the EU's they have a ton of scrutiny towards emission, so there's a good chance that electric and hydrogen power vehicles have demand. China has a huge capacity for coal-fueled electricity, and it also provides a solid ground for meeting electric vehicle demands. Okay, so this is kind of what's important, at least at the beginning of the game. Median across the board for USA. So like a balanced strategy would work really well, and then you just spend a little bit more money in marketing. China, basically, they value price and features. One thing that we have noticed in the game is they really value features right off the start. So we dominated the hydrogen market right off the round in the practice, right off the hook in the practice rounds, which we will be doing videos on, but we will wait a bit because I'm tired and talking way too fast. Features, highest amount of features. You want high amount of features, but they're also once you get to super expensive, they will start going for cheaper options. Promotion, they don't really care about, and sustainability, they don't give a rip. Europe, they value sustainability quite a bit. If you're eco-friendly, you can do really well in Europe. You need to have if you are investing in sustainability measures, have your strategy be sustainability for your thing. Features they do value a little bit. Like it's not saying they're not going to value price, features, or promotion anyways. Like if you have the highest sustainability score, I don't think you can charge $50,000 for your vehicle when everyone else is charging 30,000 and still being as successful. If that makes sense. R&D, we're well versed in combustion, but it's safe to say they've already missed kind of the headway into hybrids. Electric shows promising growth. Hydrogen remains more uncertain. Uncertain means more risk, but that kind of changes. They give you kind of a case study, a mini case study, like a market outlook in each round, and that could vary from game to game. In our game, it basically says hydrogen's catching up to EVs, and EVs having issues. Okay. Transportation tariffs. Yeah. So if you want to make cars, all your cars in the U.S. and export them to China, there's going to be tariffs. Tariffs go out of the U.S. are the most expensive in this game, and then finances are super important. We'll be getting that in the decisions. I can actually not show you the round one decisions that I made, but we'll go to the results and kind of show you what I did slash kind of show you the round four. So basically here, this is for round four, but it basically gives you a market outlook, and I can basically just show you what all the basically just gonna explain what all this means. So this is how many units were sold last round. This was less in round one. We can actually we can go back in the results and see what was actually done. But yeah, so round one there was 5,300 vehicles sold. You use this or 5,317 in the US, so it's actually hardly grown, which is interesting. China, this is actually cool to see how much it's grown. 4,000, and then Europe 5,580. So Europe actually was the fastest growing by quite a bit, which is very interesting. So if we would have went more sustainability, what I would say based on this is 5%, 10%, and 3% for round one. So that this is you want to estimate how much demand there is so you know how much to produce. And then basically you have like a target depending on your strategy. You want this higher than normal. The biggest mistake that I saw teams in round one doing was investing too much into sustainability right off the bat. Many groups either A, they didn't produce enough, or B, since they invested in sustainability, such as, let me see what they did, energy consumption and CO2 emissions right in the first round, it came with temporary capacity reduction. So if you click this here, 15%, 20%. So you can't produce enough vehicles. One thing that the game does is, let's just say you overproduce. Like, let's say you produce 4 million cars this round, or yeah, let's just say you produce 4 million cars and you only sell 2 million. That 2 million you still have as stockpile as inventory to sell. In round one, you have zero inventory. So if you don't produce, you could have the demand for 2,000 vehicles, right? But if you only make 1,000, you are missing out on a lot of sales. And that's one thing that our team did not do in round one. We basically set everything to 100%. We set our energy utilization to 50. Our ESG score was still really bad. If you don't give a rip about sustainability at all, which our group really doesn't, I would just set it to zero to save money. I would not recommend investing in sustainability. If you were to invest in one, I would do water personally. But you want to produce, I would say, based on this, based on like, let's just say you do really well. It depends on your strategy. Like if you have a broad strategy where you're just trying to be like low cost, basically we want to sell the most vehicles, have the tightest margins, and make it super affordable to price sensitive consumers. You're going to sell way more cars than someone like our company, Momentum Solutions, where we're kind of focusing on the luxury vehicles that are a little bit higher priced. So let's just say, based on this, they should give you for round zero, initial round zero, they give you how many that were sold, and the sales actually went down in the US, which is interesting. But I would say there's 8 teams, right? So let's just say if you're watching this video, you're going to do better than most of the other teams. Um, I'll tell you that much. But this was like the total amount of sales, 16,240. Let's just be safe, times that by 0.2. And this varies. Some we have 8 teams in this group, so we have 8 different companies that are competing with each other. You like, let's just say you have 20 different companies. You're not going to times it by 0.2 because there's no way that you're going to probably outsell that much. Like, you want like your target market share, the best case scenario for market share, to be that. So I would do 0.2 just to be safe, which is about 3248 vehicles. Us personally, I think we produced around 4,000. Um, you always want to overestimate, at least for the first couple rounds, because the last thing you want, remember, like fidget spinners from like 10 years ago now, that makes me seem so old. They were like the biggest thing ever in 2016. Every single kid in middle school and high school had to have one, and you could, like, literally, kids were selling them at school for like $50. You could go to a gas station, you couldn't find them anywhere, at gas stations, grocery stores, wherever. They had no demand, or they had a sky high demand, but they had no supply. And then what happened was, over the summer they started restocking, and then like a year later you could get a fidget spinner at a gas station for like $1, and they couldn't keep them on the shelf because it was like a big fad, right? Everyone had to have one, and then once they got popular, and once everyone had them, or like once the next thing came along, because like at least when you're in middle school and a little bit early high school, every single year there's this new stupid fad item. Like, it used to be silly bands or the fighting necklaces. Um, or what, I mean, it's just funny. Like, every single year there's kind of a new item that does not last long term, but is very, very popular. And even like the fighting necklace, big time. But like, we were, dude, like their demand, that though they were so popular in elementary school, and then silly bands too. Oh my goodness, good times. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is, the last thing you want is to have people going to your car dealership and you have no new cars available. You don't want it to be like in 2020, where there was massive chip shortages and the whole world was going under, where you can't buy new cars anymore. Like, there are people that want new cars every single year, and if you, like, let's just say you have it's 2025 right now, all you have is 2024 models on your lot. The people that are looking for brand new 2025 trucks aren't going to be happy. So you always need to have more demand than you always want to have more supply than your demand in this game. Inventory, what we did, blah blah blah. Investments. This basically explains your factories. I personally like China. The tariffs to transfer to the U.S. are not expensive. So if basically in the first round we added, I think we added 3 factories. So those don't become available for 2 more rounds. So if you buy factories in round one for your decisions, you will pay for them in round two, and I don't think you get them until round three. So this round, for example, we have 16. I don't know if I said that right. This is round four. In round two, you don't get them. In round three, you get them. Okay. They're under construction in round two. They would be, I think we bought 4, and I think we started with 4, and I think we bought 4 in round one and 2 in round three. And then I think this round we're starting to sell off. So next round we'll get 4. Because I think we started with 8 in the US. But look at, like, just us selling our factories. You can make some of that money back, if that makes sense. So I would recommend putting more factories in China. I wouldn't necessarily sell off the U.S. ones, and these, like, your team could do really well in the U.S. Like, I would recommend, even if it costs more. And some things that we noticed was the hybrids were actually cheaper to produce in the U.S. in this game. And then HR, um, something that we did, we hired about 8,800 workers in round one. The reason being is, our strategy. I should go into our strategy, right? Our strategy is basically the affordable luxury car brand. So we wanted to offer more features than everyone else, make features the selling point of our car, and kind of have be like our vision for the company was kind of like the Corvette, right? So for the Corvette is it's basically a supercar, but you're getting compared to like Lamborghinis, Porsches, Ferraris, McLarens, pound for pound, it's as good as a car with those ones, but it's so much cheaper and it's so much easier to maintain where it's still a pretty popular car. But it's a premium car, but the price tag, you can get a brand new Corvette for $65,000. Now, granted, they can get really expensive if you add all this extra stuff to it, or get like the Z06 or 3LT or ZR1 package or something like that, right? But the base model C8 Corvette is going for $65,000. That's a bargain for what you're getting if you compare it to like a Porsche, right? That's kind of what we were going for. So we wanted to have more features for the price point than anyone else. So if you divide our price by the amount of features, we wanted to be the cheapest. So that's something that helps when you have a lot of features. If you only have two features and you price your car at 30 grand, your price per feature is going to be 15. But if you have 15 features and you're at 35, it's going to be a lot favorable for you. So that was kind of our big game plan was if we're going to go features, we're going to be the best at this, right? So let's just say you want to go sustainability. You think Europe, like let's say in your game, Europe's big for you guys, and you think that's the best market to go in. So you need to be number one in sustainability. You need to make that your biggest focus. If you're marketing, you need to spend more on promotion. The biggest thing that I see teams do in this game, at least, is they just try to be average, right? Being average is going to get you bankrupt in this business. You have to do things that the other teams aren't doing to win the game and make profit. So um, we basically went up to 8,800 workers. We paid them $5,100 for training. I would honestly recommend doing all five. Personally, non-discriminatory policies does not do anything for you. Ethics doesn't really do anything for you besides it raises your social score. But the big three I think that are most important: um, basic training, work safety, personal health, and safety. Those will get your HR efficiency multiplier high. And also something that's important to me, if you're going for sustainability, um, they mainly value environmental for that. In Europe, they don't really care about the governance thing as much. I think everyone should be doing blind hiring, dismissing quotas. You get the best workers. You don't want workers just because of their skin or just because their orientation or their hair color or whatever or their weight or whatever or their height or whatever. We have to have diversification, right? You want the best employees, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter their hair color. Doesn't matter their race. Doesn't matter anything. The team. We were the only team that did this. Our HR efficiency multiplier, which is how effective your workers are and how productive they are. We were averaging like a 1.25, 1.3. The everyone else is like at like a 1.1. That's like the second highest, and some teams are below one. So that basically means our output per employee is 1.3 times the average employee in the industry. This is something that helped us out a lot. And then employee be welling, being focused. This kind of balances because like you can do this and you can basically be rigorous for metrics and everything like that, and it could improve efficiency, but it could tarnish your reputation. So something that we did is we're well focused on our employees. This just keeps them happy because we don't pay the greatest. Our this option's not the greatest if you want to be hardcore developing features, but we just needed a balance, right? We didn't want our ESG score to be so low in comparison to the competition because in the practice rounds we were lower than basically everyone. It wasn't even close. We kind of wanted to keep it above a 2.5. And then minimum compliance, I think that's so something that is sneaky is if you the more compliances that you have, the higher the price goes. So let's just go towards production here. And we this is just an example. So the price here, 21,524 and 73.52, right? Let's just say we do this to community engagement. Wait a minute. The price should have gone up. 73.52. You've exceeded your available person days. So we got less days. Let's just say we went to standard. I don't think it raised the price, but I think oh wow, you need an ESG score above 3 to do that. Can we do this? No, can't. Yeah, because basically by doing these, we have less person days now. But I thought something there. I don't know. I think if you raise them up quite a bit, it will increase your price. It does. Okay, let's just say we went down to Intensified R&D. Did it decrease our price? 73.52, 21.524. Okay, no. Okay. Then let's just say you did the golden handshake. Ooh, okay. All right. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like I tinkered around with this, and it maybe training priorities does impact the prices. I think maybe, and I don't know if it's just not updating or what's the deal here. Okay, maybe I was wrong on that. We'll tinker around with it some more. But having all those initiatives doesn't really help. I don't think. This is your R&D tab. So for us in round one, we maxed out our combustion hybrid. So the benefit of paying more workers is you can basically you need to allocate your person days. So it'll give you how many person days you have here. You need them all distributed to your features. Every single one of them needs to be covered. The more you pay them, the more you can develop next round. So let's just say we were to throw all our person days into hybrid, for example. Boom. Right? Okay. We get 3 more features by doing that. That's cheaper. Us hiring all these employees, that's cheaper than us buying 5 additional features. Now, if your strategy is to go features right off the gate, you're gonna have to buy some, and you might have to buy the licenses for some of them. But the thing is, the more workers that you have, it's actually cheaper for your workers to develop them in-house, assuming that your workers are efficient. Like if you're doing like the golden handshake and all this other bull crap DEI crap, your workers aren't going to be as good. So our workers can develop features. We'll come back to that for round four. So basically, you can. If you don't want to do features, I wouldn't buy. I would hire more workers, and I would maybe only buy like one, just so you don't have no features to start the game. Marketing. This is how you set your price, your strategies. Um, we'll kind of go over the results here in a sec. We did this already in the next video, but I'll basically show you what we did for prices. So we set our price in the US at 28,500. We had 11 features. We set our strategy for features and we sold middle of the pack, it looks like. Keep in mind though, basically what we did was a 30% gross margin on our things as well. That was important to us to do like a 30 to 32% gross margin just to make sure. Let me make sure this camera's still. Oh my God. Are we not recording anymore? Oh, thank goodness. All right. Had me worried there for a second. Okay. Um, so our margins were a little bit better than the competition, I think, and we didn't sell as much. But hybrids, we did really well in. So we did a brand focused strategy for that. U.S. values promotion. So if it values promotion, brand's going to be the best. If it values features, features are going to be the best. If it's just middle of the road, balance is probably going to be the best bet for that. If it's values price, low price is going to be the best for that, and it kind of varies. There's ebbs and flows with it. But hybrid market, we did incredibly well in. See, it doesn't value features as much. Like these guys had less price per feature, and we barely sold more than them. Granted, our margins probably weren't even as good as them because our feature costs were higher. But the more features you have, the higher the price of the vehicle gets. That's a big trade-off. If you want to be features, you're going to get expensive in a hurry, which is something that we kind of realized. And then for combustion, we set it at 167.5, which was the highest price, or second highest price, or third highest price. We still sold pretty well. Did it on features, developing the features quick. But you look at Vortex here, right? They sold more than us, right? And they had less features. So this shows in this game China is really price sensitive, right? If we were to have 8 features at 140, I think we would have crushed them. But having 11 features drove up our price if we still wanted to have that 32% gross margin. But in the hybrid market, we dominated because they didn't have any features. They did a feature strategy, but if you do a feature strategy, you can't do a feature strategy when you only have one feature. So if you're not developing features quick, or if you're not investing in sustainability, just go balanced or go all in on the brand where you're dumping everything and you have into marketing. Europe didn't do as well, I don't think. She did pretty well. And we set at 28.5, had 5 features, and we actually kept up with the sustainability groups, which is what they valued. So we didn't do anything to invest in our ESG. We did the utilization for energy at like 50%. But that was less than. So see what I'm talking about with the demand. right? So these companies did really good with sustainability, right? We were actually second best in combustion engines for Europe, which is shocking because they don't value features and they value sustainability, right? But remember all these companies I told you investing in sustainability in the first round is not that great of an idea. Look at their demand and look at their sales, right? These guys should have sold 1225 vehicles. All their customers went to us, right? These guys should have sold 781. These guys should have sold 1,000 more vehicles, right? A lot of people didn't meet the market demand. That was a thing. So our HR multiplier, look at that, way higher than everyone else. And then just to sum this up quick, we have another video on this, but yeah, 80 mil in rev, 65 million spent, and then we had the highest profit by quite a bit far. So our strategy worked well. If you have any questions, comment them down below. I know I couldn't really show like round per round everything just because we're going back in time, but to dive more into the results, if you want to see more of the results and everything like that, check out this video right here. Actually, no, it's not even out yet because we're in reverse order. But there'll be a video in a couple days with the round one results and then the round two decisions after that. But there's 8 rounds of this game, and then we had 3 practice rounds. So we will document everything as part of this journey, and then we will see how we did. So stay tuned, guys. Let me know if you have any questions or any strategy advice or anything in the comments. I'd be happy to answer, guys, and help you win your game and make more profit than anyone else. Because after all, I am the simulation prophet, and that's my job. So I'll catch you all in the next video. Round one results coming soon. Stay on the lookout for that. And until next time, I don't even know what I say on this channel.